This is TWiT.
There was a report from Insider Gaming about a new PlayStation handheld, and a very confusing one because according to the report, it has an 8-inch screen. All it does is remote play from the PlayStation 5. That's at least according to the report. It is a screen that you hold with a game controller, and apparently has like DualSense. It has like the DualSense motion stuff and the haptic feedback, but it is just a dummy screen for the remote play on the PS5. We don't know if this is actually going to be a thing. But looking at Sony as a company I am always deeply frustrated with, I'm like, this sounds like a dumb thing Sony would do. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Thoughts, guys, if this actually ends up being a remote play device only?
I will say that I'm surprised at how popular remote play and kind of local game streaming is. I did not, you don't have to go far online to find people talking about how awesome it is. So that was kind of surprising to me. But yeah, I guess if Sony wants, they've seen the success of the Switch, the Steam Deck, which to me was the gadget
of Steam Deck,
2020, I guess gadget of last year. And it has really kind of changed the way that I play games pretty substantially, actually. And then there are smaller kind of Chinese companies, Airbernic, Retroid, that kind of produce these handheld devices that unlock the ability to stream games either from the cloud or from your local network. That was not a thing 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago. So yeah, I guess I would also agree that I'm a little bit frustrated with what Sony does. It's like, why can't you just make the Vita too? That would be nice.
Why can't you just be good? Why can't you
just be normal? So
just be normal. I reviewed, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I reviewed some neck speakers that Sony made, which were literally like, it was like a cow collar that sits around your neck, and they're just speakers that point up. And they didn't support Bluetooth. They were requiring this weird like wired dongle. And they were very clunky, and they didn't sound good. And they cost like, I think, over $300. And the entire time I was writing my write-up of that thing, I was like, what are you doing, Sony? Like, you're Sony. You gave us the Walkman. You gave us the PlayStation. Nobody wants neck speakers. What are you doing? Meanwhile, they can still produce some of the like best headphones out there. Their noise canceling stuff are still really good. It's just funny to me. Like I would not be surprised if Sony made a thing like this. The only thing is, if it was $100 or less, I could see that being useful to people if they just want to remote play from their PlayStation 5. Otherwise, just you could probably get any sort of like game streaming, handheld that would cost $200-ish and would also be able to use cloud streaming, which I think to a lot of people would be more useful, right?
Yeah, I think that was one of the bigger criticisms of the Logitech photo from last year, where it was like really cool device, but it was like $100 too expensive for what it does. So pricing seems to be for if you're just releasing a screen, basically, you have to price that appropriately. If it's not like a full powered console or whatever, and you're just selling a screen with some buttons attached to it, people are aware of what that should cost. And especially Sony, they just launched the PSVR 2, which doesn't appear to have done super well, at least the early indications. I don't know what they're doing hardware-wise.
So slow sales there, and I reviewed the PSVR 2, and my main complaint there was like, oh my God, this hardware is amazing. Why is it more expensive than the PlayStation 5? So what are you doing? It is strange. The tech in the PSVR 2 is very good. Like compared to a lot of other VR headsets, I'm sure they're probably already selling that at a loss. But if they want this thing to actually succeed, Sony kind of has to bite the bullet a little more, I'd say. Anthony, have you partaken in any of these little handheld gaming devices? Because I don't know. I don't think you have a PC that would play games, but these things like solve a lot of problems for you and people like you who want to play games. Yeah.
Honestly, I think that most of my gaming at this point is like on my Mac or on my iPad. So I'm not like a super serious gamer. I did own the original PlayStation PSP, and that is actually the one Sony device, gaming device that I've ever purchased. So bring back the PSP, why not? But I think like the Steam Deck obviously is the one that is the most interesting to me, and I felt like at first, a lot of the reviews were saying, hey, it's not quite there. This is really for, people who really want to be on the bleeding edge. And now it seems like it's starting to get to the point where I am considering it. I'm not very seriously.
Yeah. With the price breaks, I do feel like for you, Anthony, and for like a lot of people who can't justify a gaming PC or even like a game console, something like that is just like, well, you could use it as sort of a console. You could dock it to your TV. But also it would give you access to so many games that you're probably hearing people talk about, and you have no easy way to play, and with cloud streaming, you could play games that are even too powerful for that handheld system to handle. So that'd
What
be
was
kind of
cool about the PSP when it was out and very popular at the time was
Yep.
during my time in college in Japan. And then so the amount of people people forget that, Sony, although it's a globalist company, they're still a Japanese company at heart.
Yes.
So two things that come to mind. Number one, it's if I hired Anthony and I'm the boss, it's hard for me to fire him because it makes me look like I did something dumb.
Mhm.
So what they might do is put him on the project in the corner, like, I need you to make neck speakers. And after you make those neck speakers and they're hot trash,
Good
I can
job,
be
buddy.
like, that was
Yeah.
a dumb idea. Anthony, Gomenasai.
Wow.
So I'm assuming those are like
Just
the
sweating
nice-
imagining this.
those are seppuku jobs, right? I'm imagining. But to me, that device was so good. And so I traveled from basically nearby Ginza, a place called Edogawabashi, every day to Kanagawa to go to my university. And so that time in the train, everybody was, with their PSPs, or at that time, the DS was very popular.
Yeah.
And everybody.
What year was this? Was this like
playing in
05?
06.
06? Okay.
Yeah. 05, 06, yeah. So everybody's there playing all of the games, and it was fantastic. You would go to these stores, you would meet people outside and, discuss new games and, trade gamer handles and things like that. It was really cool situation. The phone brought a lot of that level stuff, but the controls are junk. So when Steel and these other guys made boxes you can wrap your phone with, that would do it. Or the last update that allows us to just connect a DualShock controller or an Xbox Elite controller to your phone and go to town, that kind of like covered it. But there was something so dope about a device that was just for gaming.
Yep.
So
It fit in
because
your
Switch is
pocket.
doing so good, I would love for Sony to get out of their own way and come back. And even Microsoft, because I'm actually a little bit more Xbox these days, I would appreciate them coming up with the Switch level device. And the hardest part of that right now, I believe, is the only people that make a processor dope enough to do all of that ain't giving them the processor, and that's my team. So they gotta come up with a processor that's MX oriented that will allow them to bring all of that firepower to such a small device.
I mean, one of the reasons the Steam Deck has done so well is because of better Radeon like mobile graphics. That's kind of it. Like, and the GPU's getting better for handheld. So I could see Microsoft dipping their toes in this. There have been rumors about that too. But at the same time, like, man, I sometimes just pick up my Vita and look at that thing and it's like, this is a beautiful object. This is a beautiful piece of consumer electronics, and I really wish Sony had given it more of a chance.
Whoever gets in bed with NVIDIA and locks them down will bring it to the table, because NVIDIA is the closest right now. And NVIDIA just has some amazing stuff. So whoever can, like, without them trying to do their own thing, because they're not good at doing that, right? They need to work with a legacy partner. And I feel if Sony and or Microsoft would jump in with NVIDIA and be like, let's lock this down and not lose it, they could take on and just bury the Switch.
It could be. I mean, that could be something. I do feel like everyone's looking at AMD now, because the PlayStation 5, the Xbox, all the Xboxes are powered by AMD, and AMD is much better at integrated hardware rather than NVIDIA. So
true story.
Yeah. We'll see. I would love to see that. I would just love to see Sony succeed again, because I wrote a piece a couple of years ago, I think, on Sony's, like, one of Sony's major anniversaries, and they would not talk to me for that piece. And the piece ended up being, will Sony ever be like a consumer electronics king or titan again? Because it doesn't seem like it. Like, they're a company held up entirely by PlayStation and Spider-Man at this point, pretty much.
Losing the mini disc battle broke my heart. I have a stack right there. I have a massive stack of mini discs, and my player finally gave out. But to me, that was one of the dopest pieces of tech. And somebody's mentioning in the chat how that the PSP ran on mini disc. I was heavy into my music creation at the time.
I was in high school. I would look at the mini discs and be like, this is cool. This is the future. Because they would also occasionally pop up in anime, right? And I was like, Japan's just another planet, because the tech that they have is just far beyond whatever I was living with at the time. So Okay.
Great.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen with this potential.
In
Sony
Japan, you
handheld.
could actually rent them, so you wanted to hear a new album. And it was like a lot of Final Fantasy game soundtracks or whatever. You would just go to Sataya and rent your little mini disc and listen to that on the train on the way to class. It was so cool. And I was really sad to see it go.
That's a shame. That's a shame. You know what? Like, yeah, I'm hoping Sony comes back with something. By the way, this thing's reportedly called the Q Lite. And if that is the name, then it does make sense. It's just like a remote streaming box. So that's kind of the thing. That totally makes sense.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I am the host of Hands On Photography here on TWiT TV. I know you got yourself a fancy smartphone, you got yourself a fancy camera, but your pictures are still lacking. Can't quite figure out what the heck shutter speed means? Watch my show. I got you covered. Want to know more about just the ISO and exposure triangle in general? Yeah, I got you covered. Or if you got all of that down, you want to get into lighting, making things look better by changing the lights around you. I got you covered on that too. So check us out each and every Thursday here on the network. Go to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.